part of the challenge for us as business people is we have to be willing to disrupt ourselves. Sometimes we're so good at something and something so core to our business that we're unwilling to consider change. I grew up in a small city called Kitchener-Waterloo, and a pretty ordinary town, about 50,000 people. The one thing that was unique about Waterloo is the university we had. University of Waterloo is one of the top math and engineering universities in the world. Bill Gates would come every year personally to Waterloo to recruit engineers as he was building Microsoft in the early days. And in fact, when we brought our nanny over from China, after she was finished taking pictures of our sky, the blue sky, and sending them back home, because where she came from, it's mostly green, she wanted to get in a bus and go to University of Waterloo and take pictures and say, like, this is where I am, I've actually arrived. It's a famous university. And as a result of that, this town that I've come from has become kind of the Silicon Valley of Canada. And there was a company born there a number of years ago called Research in Motion. And some of you had a product of theirs called the Blackberry, which was invented in 1999, and within less than a decade became the 16th most valuable brand on the planet, ahead of BMW, ahead of Walt Disney, all kinds of iconic brands. And in fact, the President of the United States said he couldn't live without that device. So we're talking about a product that goes to like the pinnacle of success, right? And then in 2007, on a stage in San Francisco, Steve Jobs did something he said he'd never do. He launched a smartphone, the iPhone. And within 2 years, well, this wasn't 2 years, but a very short period of time, the Blackberry was gone. It was dead. I know there's a few of you that have them in your pockets. And there is one, I think, in the Smithsonian. And I'm not supposed to say this, being from Waterloo, but for all intents and purposes, the Blackberry is dead. So how did that happen? You know, a lot of people chalk it up to corporate hubris or infighting amongst founders, but the Blackberry story is much deeper than that. You know, some people say, well, they lost touch with their customers. No. Exactly the opposite. These guys were obsessed about their customers. They knew exactly what their customers loved about their product. They loved the BBM. Does anyone remember that? Before WhatsApp, right? They loved the security of the product. But most of all, they loved the keyboard, right? And for those of you that remember other mobile devices at the time, you'd have to be like a squirrel, like typing on them to try to type anything out. But the BlackBerry invented this amazing parabolic keyboard where we could type with opposing thumbs at light speed. It was an amazing product. And so the thought of doing anything and leaving that keyboard behind was unthinkable. Their customers literally would have revolted had they done that. The other thing is, Mike Lazaridis was one of the smartest guys on the planet when it came to spectrum and frequency technology. He knew that what Steve Jobs was saying on that stage was not possible. He knew it wasn't true. And the truth is, he was right. Because in the years that followed, some of us remember the early years of the iPhone, calls were being dropped left, right, and center. There was the AntennaGate scandal. Lawsuits were flying because the product didn't deliver on what it said it would do. No serious business person back in the early couple of years of the iPhone would have actually used an iPhone, right? It was kind of like a toy, and that's the way it was viewed. But Steve Jobs played a chess move that nobody saw coming. He entered into a 5-year exclusive agreement with AT&T to allow AT&T to invest into the network in a way that nobody saw coming, so that within a couple of years, the iPhone promise actually materialized. And by that time, it was too late for a lot of other companies, and BlackBerry was actually anchored to that keyboard. There's a lot of things that held them back from progressing, but one of the things was the thing that was so great about their product, anchored them to the past. And so the question for us as business leaders is, what is our keyboard? What are the elements of our business model that we're so committed to, or the things that we know so well in our business that are actually anchoring us to the past and maybe holding us back from the future?